Okay guys, so the way that I removed this center bolt, which I actually have to get a new one, I just realized, because this one is slightly bent. I still got it out, but what you do is, so this piece is on here, right? The fork, like that, and then what you're gonna end up doing is take it out from this end, and then it's gonna take a while because it's in there, obviously extremely tight. Put some WD-40 maybe even on there. You're eventually gonna take this out, and then that's how it looks like right there. But this is a huge 22 millimeter. It's like a 1/2 inch drive socket, and then that's the inside. Okay guys, so this is the massive 22 millimeter socket with a 1/2 inch, actually this is an inch drive to a 1/2 inch adapter. And what you do once you line the wheel up, the replacement parts came with a new pin, center pin, whatever this is called, so I actually didn't have to buy one, which is nice. And then all you do is hand tighten it until it stops, or you can use the drill. And then I still have to look up the torque settings on this, and then with the breaker bar you're gonna torque it to the factory specifications. And then we're gonna put the brake calipers back on. We're going to try to clean this rust off this rotor, and then we're going to put this right here, I believe is a speed sensor that we're going to reattach back here and go from there. But yeah, it's actually it's not too hard of a job, but it's so much easier to have two people. So if you can have a friend help you, I just thought I could do it myself, and I mean, it took a lot longer, but at that point what you do is you just put everything back together the way that you took it off, and yeah. Alright guys, so the next step that I'm doing here is I'm replacing the old headers with new headers. And the reason for that is during the accident, what happened was the front wheel came off, and then the bike basically just sat on the bottom of these headers here. And as you can see, right here, there's a lot of damage here and here, so it'll restrict, potentially it'll restrict airflow, and also I'm worried that with the high heat it might crack, so I just decided to just replace these all together. It's not even that big of a deal with these new ones here. Very simple to actually remove these. All you do is you take a E16 star shaped. These aren't actually star shaped, but the star shaped one works great for these screws. And then there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You're going to need some of these extensions that wiggle around a little bit, so it'll make it easier for you. And then once that's out, you're going to take a T45 for the bolt right in there. There's a bolt, that one, for the muffler. And then you're going to use also this for the clamp. So this clamp sits in there like this. You're just going to loosen it all the way, and then take it off, and then the entire headers you'll be able to remove it. Obviously, again, as you can see, I lifted it so that I'm supporting the front wheel by a little brick. Not the safest thing, but as long as you can get the bike off the ground a foot or so, you're going to need to do that. Otherwise, you won't be able to get the headers off. It's going to be real difficult for you. Just want to show you guys, as you can see, there's very little clearance in there to work with, but just, get creative and use extensions if you need to, like these, or like for that middle one, I'm not using any extension at all. So as you can see, it's just the bolt itself. But basically, yeah, the new headers are installed right there. Nice and clean on the bottom. This little bracket just slides off right here, and then you use these. This goes on first, and then this is the pin that holds it. This is the radiator. There's two bolts like this that hold the radiator in place. Okay. Just real quick, wanted to show you guys. So had an accident on this K1200R, and the whole front end essentially just shattered, which is good and bad. Good because you only have to replace these parts instead of, you know, frame damage or something like that. But basically, what I wanted. So here's that bolt that I was talking to you about that I'm going to actually tie in all the way, and then followed by one of these fasteners as well. One of these nuts that goes over that, only once that's all the way in. Okay, so, and then I also have to look up torque specs on everything. I'm gonna go ahead and retorque everything once it's all back. So I'm not just tightening everything to the maximum that I can. I have to look up torque specs somewhere. To get this in, you're either gonna have to have somebody help you, or you just take a car jack or something like that. You're gonna have to lift this up, and it sits at an angle, as you can see. Once you get that in, what I would recommend you do is the shock goes, try to line this up first, get the shock in. After you get the shock in, get that bolt right there in for that top wishbone thing. Then it's going to be so much easier to get this large one in. The first thing that I did, actually, believe it or not, was I just kind of stuffed that in just so it's like not falling down, right? And then I'm gonna have to lift this up a little bit, and then align this, and then screw that one in with the H12. Yeah, I think you can reuse a lot of these parts as well, like some of the bolts. And I have this actually on the pallet and on a fork. It's like a forklift, not a forklift. What are these things called? Just so I can move it around the garage. But yeah. Just quickly, guys, wanted to show you how to replace the front end in case you ever have an accident on these K1200R bikes. I'm going to try to make this as quick as possible, so I'll miss some of the details, but overall at least you'll get an idea of what has to be done. Basically what happened was the whole front end, when I had the accident, shattered off the bike, and yeah, I mean, it looks like this is going to be the top wishbone. This part sits just underneath this, and then this is all the way at the top, which connects behind the actual shock absorber itself in the front. Yeah, so you're gonna have to have some tools. You're gonna need a lot of these star-shaped sockets. There's a T50. You're also gonna need to have a T45. You're going to need to have an H12 socket. It's like an Allen key socket, and then you're going to need to have just various other sockets as well. You can just get them in a set like that. And then you're going to need to have some of these little star-shaped ones for the body work. Make sure all your parts, all your bolts that you're taking off, you don't lose anything. Put the cowlings aside. So what I'm going to do is just basically walk you through what I did to remove everything and then to put everything back on this bike. Yeah, guys, so next, before you do anything, you're going to have to remove these bolts, and they look like that. And what they do is they hold the top portion of your radiator in. So you're going to have to take these off. because otherwise you won't be able to get that plastic piece off. So these bolts have to come off. When you tighten, like for instance this one, what you're going to want to do is tighten it from this side and also hold it from the other side with a socket. So the socket is it's a 5/8 or whatever the millimeter would be for that one. So 5/8 on that one, and then you can use a T45 for the other side, and you're going to want to do that for anything here, except obviously that one. But if you want to tighten that or anything, you're going to have to want to do it from both sides. Otherwise, it'll just be spinning on you. This, I believe this is the, I don't even know what this is. Maybe it's the ECU for the bike. So this here is held by these rubber straps here. They're literally just like, it connects right there, and then connects right there. So there's one here and then one on the top, and that holds your, I think, some sort of computer module ECU. I don't know. That is being held like that, and yeah, we're getting there. We're getting there slowly. Next will be to put the wheel on. There's a special socket for it as well. I'll show you. So the wheel actually completely flew off in the accident, and what happened was I kind of salvaged what I could. The first thing I did, it was hanging on by just the brake rotors, so I disconnected the brake rotors from the wheel. There's 4 bolts that hold, there's 2 bolts per caliper, and they look like this here. So the first thing I did was disconnect those, and then I was able to get the wheel free. After that happened, here's the calipers, and I have them zip tied so that they're not hanging on the lines. But basically, what you're looking at is this top bolt here, which is that huge H Allen key socket that I showed you guys. This will come out, and it looks, let me see, like this here. So this will come out, and you're going to need to have a good 20 volt Ingersoll Rand. That's a 7150, because these are torqued on extremely tight from BMW. So you're going to remove that. The next bolt that you're going to remove is actually this one here, which will sit here. You can already see the there's a long tube that sits in there. I wish I could show you guys. Where is that thing here? So see this? This sits inside. So what you're going to do is you're going to remove that nut off of there. You're going to loosen this. This is a huge socket. I think this is like a, oh man, what was it? Like a 30 mil or something, 35 mil. I'll have to double check later. But this whole thing will come out, and when you loosen this, you're going to able to put your huge H Allen socket in there. And then first you loosen this, and then you loosen the whole bar. It'll come out like this. Once that's out of the threads, you can just pull it out, and then that's free, right? And this is connected to the entire lower part of this assembly. So then once that's done, just take your time. Honestly, it's not the easiest thing in the world, but as long as you take your time, you'll be fine. Then what I did is I disconnected it right here. Disconnected it right there, so I kept that top part, it was fine, and I replaced this whole bottom portion as well. That's just one of those star sockets, and then another one here. So once that's disconnected, this ring here, I thought this was like some sort of fastener. I thought you're supposed to take this off with a special tool, but it actually, you don't touch this little ring on the outside with these little grooves in there. That stays in there. So that's off. Then what I did was, like I said, took that off. This whole assembly part came off. For the fairings and stuff, guys, it's pretty self-explanatory. I'm not even going to get into it. It's just a bunch of bolts and stuff. You don't have to take that one off, but you will have to take the other side off. So those come off pretty easily. They're just various bolts on there. Yeah, so that's off, that's off, that's off. And then what else we got? Oh yeah, here's the other thing. You're gonna have to get this thing off the ground somehow. So I'm actually replacing these headers because in the accident the bike was sitting on these headers, and as you could see, they're dented up in the front. So I bought brand new headers from a BMW dealership, and they're new. So I'm gonna put these on. But you're gonna have to get this thing off the ground somehow, obviously. So what I did was I got this this little lift, and that's a whole different kind of DIY all in its own. But you're gonna have to get this bike off the ground somehow. So what I did was I just took this really soft tie down strap and went underneath like that, and then the whole bike lifts off the ground. If you don't do that, you won't have enough room to actually put the new control arms, whatever these are called, forks into position, because you need to have a lot of clearance here, right? Because it's going to be sitting down. I just put a piece of block in there just to kind of support it, just in case. This is going to be garbage anyway, so I don't care if it gets scratched up.